Communication theory. What is the communication process? The transmission communication model is considered the first model of communication. It all began with Claude Shannon, who was an engineer working for Bell Telephone Laboratories. He was investigating how to strengthen telephone communications. Claude Shannon published a mathematical theory of communication in the Bell System Technical Journal in July 1948. This work focuses on the problem of how to best encode the information a sender wants to transmit. The transmission model describes communication as a linear, one-way process in which a sender intentionally transmits a message to a receiver. When Shannon developed the theory, he was influenced by the advent and spread of new communication technologies of the time, such as the telegraph, telephone, radio, and television. If you look carefully, you can probably see these technical influences within the model. Think of how a radio message is sent from a person in the radio studio to you listening in your car. The sender is the radio announcer who encodes a verbal message that is transmitted by a radio tower through electromagnetic waves, which is the channel, and eventually it receives you via an antenna and speakers in order to be decoded. The radio announcer doesn't really know if you received his message or not. But if the equipment is working and the channel is free of static, then there is a good chance that the message was successfully received. It wasn't until 1970 when Dean Barnland proposed a new model of communication for basic interpersonal communication called the transaction communication model. The model was different as he redefined the communication process from linear to a simultaneous experience where people send and receive messages at the same time. In the transactional communication model, it begins with two communicators. Both of them are a sender and receiver. Around the sender and receiver, you will notice a shaded oval labeled field of experience or worldview. This field of experiences encompasses so many things. It encompasses your culture, your religion, and how you were raised. Anything and everything that affects how you perceive the world. This is important to consider because once you begin the communication process, because your perception may radically change how you send a message and how a person receives it. Between the two ovals is a shaded area labeled shared view. This is the area where the two communicators might have experienced the world much the same, and so they are likely to interpret some messages similarly. The channel is the method of communication. How do you communicate with others? Some of the ways include face-to-face interaction, telephone, text, emoji, or by mediated methods, including this instructional video. Next is the message. The message is constructed by words and/or visuals. In a face-to-face conversation, we have the luxury of hearing and seeing a message. Body language sometimes can drastically change how the message might be received. Finally, there is noise. Noise can be physical noise, where a message may be interrupted. Perhaps you can hear construction outside, and it interferes with your hearing someone at work asking you something. Sometimes the noise can be inside of you. It is your internal messages telling you that you're hungry, and ask yourself what you should eat. And that interferes with you listening to someone in your workplace. Noise is complicated, but eliminating it is intricate to receiving and understanding messages. Before moving on, let's make sure that you've understood the important concepts in communication theory. Here are some questions to answer. What invention helped create the first communication model? Who invented the first communication model? Why was it invented? What were the limitations of his first model? How did communication theory evolve? How was Barnland's model different from original communication models?